All right, so here we go. We're going to call this to order then. And by the way, you didn't mention John Urban. You haven't heard from him either?
I have not, but he may just show up and we'll let him in when he arrives.
Got it. Lori sent out in advance the minutes from the September 22nd, the October 5th meeting. Both seem like they were light years behind us now, especially that September meeting, as much as transpired we'll cover today. I hope everyone had a chance to review those, and let's see if there are any questions about the minutes that have been presented from Lori. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? And let's do these one at a time for September 22nd. Motion to approve?
I'll move.
Motion by Kim, a second. Anyone want to make a second on those motions? Yes, I see that hand. So all in favor of approving the minutes from September 22nd, show of hands, we'll do it that way. Very good. Thank you. October 5th minutes.
I'm sorry, Randy, can you just call out who makes the motions? I didn't catch who was that second.
Kim made the motion and Cindy made the second.
Thank you.
And I believe we had a 100% in favor of approval. Any nays? No? October 5th meeting. Let's go to those minutes then. Any questions? Motion to approve the October 5th minutes.
Motion.
By Brett, a second by. Thank you very much, Marcy. All in favor of the approval of those minutes, raise of hands then so we can see. And I see that as unanimous. Good. We go on then. Thank you very much. Let's go to my screen went away for a moment there. Let's go to the unfinished business, CARES Act grant distribution. Becky, is this on you?
Happy to handle it.
Let's do, please. We've had some fun these last 2 months here. Bring us up to date, please.
Is that all it's been? Feels like.
You know what? Hey, I'll before you get into this, I will add this. And Kim, I think you'll totally agree with me on this. Not that you don't normally, but there's been some work behind the scenes here on this. Small committee had met on this CARES Act grant distribution. But I tell you, it does not go unnoticed. Becky, and I'm sure Lori, and I don't know who else on the team, had to do an incredible amount of work behind the scenes and in front of the scenes to make all of this. And we do appreciate it greatly. And I know that business owners out there who either have or you're going to tell me are about to receive checks, they probably don't know the amount of work and screening that went into it. But Becky, we thank you very much for the work that you did on this.
I appreciate that very much, Randy. And I made the comment to somebody just yesterday that this has really kind of been one of the highlights of my career, just being able to be a part of it and have the opportunity to help coordinate getting some dollars into the hands of folks who can really benefit from it. So it's not every day we get to give away money. So,
like a game show host.
Yeah, normally we're asking for it in the form of taxes. So this
you get $10,000 and you get $10,000
and you get a check and you get a check, but unfortunately you don't. And so it hasn't all been pleasant.
That's right.
But most folks have been incredibly gracious, and it's been really wonderful just to absorb that a little bit. So I actually was able to type up a couple of notes that I thought might help this group. I just did this in the last 45 minutes or so. So a little raw, but it may help as we talk about it here. So just wanted to do a little bit of a recap for this group, just to kind of walk us through everything that we have done to date and kind of let you know where we are as of today. So just as a reminder, we ended up doing 2 rounds of funding. The first one that we're referring to as round 1, the application period was October 9th through October 26th. We had a great partnership opportunity with Red Brick covering any of the funding. So that left all of the $300,000 that we received from the county, from the federal CARES Act dollars to go directly toward businesses. So Maureen absolutely took the helm on this, our communications coordinator, and we advertised through press releases, Facebook paid ads, Facebook posts, Nextdoor posts, block ads in the Matthews Mint Hill Weekly, and then a mailer to all of our businesses. Out of that, we received 28 applications. And as we went through those 28 applications, with, as Randy mentioned, the small group of EDAC members coordinating all of that, did deem that 7 of them were ineligible to be considered for funding. And just to give you a little bit of additional insight, 3 of them did not have sufficient gross receipts. So the business was too small. They did not meet the $50,000 minimum threshold that we required. 3 were not located in Matthews, so they were simply not eligible due to geographic location. And 1 had not been in business long enough, and so they were not able to produce the required tax documentation to be able to prove eligibility. There were an additional 3 applications that were not completed before the deadline, and so we determined that we would not consider them, and instead they were encouraged to reapply in round 2, because at that point we knew that we were going to have a round 2. And then we did have 6 additional applications that we denied based on the contents, and 2 applied for ineligible expenses. This round 1, as an example, did not allow us to fund payroll expenses, and one of the applications was looking for payroll help. 3 did not itemize or provide sufficient detail, and then 1 had both ineligible expenses and lack of detail. So we did turn those 6 down, but again, encouraged those folks to reapply in round 2, and a couple of them did. So we were glad to see them respond and put some additional work in to try again. Of the total of 28 applications, we were able to award initial funding to 12 of them. And then following that initial grant award and just to back up, the 12 applications totaled $93,460.36. Following initial approval, we did have one of those 12 that turned down their award because they had not kept sufficient receipts, and so they didn't think that they could come up with the required documentation. We did have 1 who lowered their award just a little bit. They were one of the ones that needed to make some purchases with their award funding, and their costs came in a little bit lower than expected, and they opted to just reduce the award instead of finding other expenses. And so that brings our total down to 11 applications that ended up being eligible for funding, and that reduced total is $88,308.87. We are right in the middle of this as we speak, as far as processing the awards or processing the paperwork that's coming in. Of the folks who received funding in round 1, we have paid out $35,561.87 as of the accounts payable checks that are going to go out this Friday. And we are waiting on final documentation from a number of those remaining applicants, and they have 10 days to get it in. I have sent reminder emails, and folks are saying, yes, we will still make it, still working on it, that kind of thing. So still in the works with round 1. And in the paperwork that they fill out to receive their funding, we do ask some statistical questions just to help keep track of any assistance that we're providing to disabled, minority, or women-owned businesses. And so we will be able to have some information on that once we receive that final paperwork back.
Becky, question, if you don't mind.
Yes, sure.
So on that, we didn't ask for that kind of information on the applications. We're only
Correct.
asking that from them in order to receive their final check. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so it's part of our vendor packet. So we ask it of anybody who receives from the town of Matthews through our standard finance department vendor packet. And it's optional. Somebody could opt not to respond if they didn't want to.
Okay.
Are attempting to collect that information.
All right, good. Thank you.
Yep.
One other question, Becky, I had is,
Sure. Yeah.
I wonder, we don't need to know the names, that's not what we're looking for, but the breakdown of business versus, in the first round, I believe it was open for businesses and nonprofits. I was wondering.
Yes.
have just a
Thanks,
broad
Tim.
breakdown.
Yeah. I will add that. I meant to. When I was thinking about doing this earlier, I meant to include that breakdown of the 11. It's 5 or 6 nonprofits were part of the 11.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can tell you if you want to hang on for 1 second.
That's about 50% or thereabouts. That's fine. I mean,
Yeah, let's see.
I think it was 50% of what they were eligible for.
One.
Is well below or far below that, if you think of the 150 that we were earmarking.
oh, agreed.
It was 5. It was 5 nonprofits were part of the original 11.
Thank you.
Yep.
Did any nonprofits reach out to you part of phase 2 or round 2 to see if? No,
Nope.
but yeah.
Nope. And for the group that set in on the review, it hit most of the kind of big known nonprofits in Matthews. I only heard from one nonprofit during the application period where they serve Matthews, but they are not located in Matthews, and they were looking to see if they could be eligible, but we kept it pretty clear that you had to be located within the town of Matthews with your physical location of your organization. But other than that, didn't hear from anybody. So we went back out almost immediately with round 2 and advertised with an additional mailer and actually a larger budget for the Facebook paid ads. Really hit the Facebook posts hard. Maureen felt like every other day was putting up another post reminding folks. And that did result in 27 applications. There is an asterisk there that I'll get to in just a second. Of the 27, 3 were deemed to be ineligible, again, not located in Matthews. It's the common, they might have a Matthews 28105 address, but they're not physically actually located within town limits. The asterisk is I did find one application in the spam folder for our email account after the fact, after we had reviewed everything. I freaked out and got really concerned that we'd maybe missed a whole bunch. So I went back through and looked. It was only the one. Fortunately, in some sense, what they had applied for was ineligible. So they are not somebody that would have otherwise received funding. But we'll still count them as having applied because it was within the right time frame. So of those 27, we were able to award funding to 23 of them. And that totaled an additional $199,482.17. Of the 23, did just want to point out that that does include 2 applicants who received partial, or they received funding for something in round 1, but it was less than the $10,000 max award. So they were eligible to reapply in round 2 for the remaining balance, as long as their total of all awards did not exceed $10,000. We did receive additional applications from 2 businesses, and they were included in the total for funding. So nobody has had a reduced award or anything like that. We required all receipts to be submitted with the application, which is going to be phenomenal from a processing standpoint. Not going to have to do nearly as much tracking down of things. They are still within their window to submit materials. So there are some grant agreements and the vendor packet and things like that that we do need to receive back from organizations in order to get their funding paid out. So we're still receiving that for the next few days. I do have a slug of them that are waiting to be reviewed. I've been getting to as many of them as possible. I'll be getting to more this week. So we have not actually sent out any funds for round 2, but that will start with our checks next week, Friday, and we should not have a problem getting everything paid out on time. So we are also still TBD with any of the disabled, minority, or women-owned business status. So we'll have those stats later. But across the 2 rounds, we were able to allocate $287,791.04 in awards. And that is leaving us with $12,208.96, which we're waiting on formal permission from Mecklenburg County, but we do expect to be able to send those funds to the Matthews Help Center to allow them to provide additional direct assistance to individuals in financial crisis located within Mecklenburg County, which they had previously spent the full $210,000 that they had received from Mecklenburg County already. So they should be able to get that out before the end of the year. I've been working with Sandra on their plan, and they would be in good shape to receive those funds so that we're still keeping them within the greater Matthews community and not just sending them back to the county. So that is my recap. Happy to answer any additional questions that anyone might have. But long story short, we were able to allocate almost all of it, not quite all of it, and we're still in the absolute thick of an unbelievable amount of paperwork to get those funds actually paid out. And then we have finance staff that is providing the grant reporting work of all of the documentation then back to the county so that they confirm that the funds were properly spent, which is a whole other set of work in and of itself.
Becky, any key lessons learned from your perspective in all of this? Things that didn't go as you expected, or and maybe that did go as we expected?
Yeah, I'd say off the top of my head, I was surprised at our low number of applications. I think if we had had more time to advertise, and maybe been able to do some, actual hand delivering of, flyers and things like that, I think that may have driven up the numbers. We heard from a couple folks after the fact of like, I didn't know anything about this. And it's like, sign up for our news alerts, go on our Facebook page, so I've spent the time to educate them on how to maybe not miss anything from the town in the future. But I think that surprised me a little bit. I'm not sure what, short of additional time, could have driven our numbers up. I will say there has been a tremendous amount of hand holding on getting folks to fill things out correctly, sign documents, meet those types of basic requirements. That has been an enormous time suck. So we did try to simplify it for round 2. That helped a lot, of like really highlighting, sign this, highlighting, must include X. So there was still some hand holding in round 2, but it was better than round 1. It was abundantly clear that nonprofits are used to applying for grants. And so they're like, boom, boom, got it. And some of these small businesses, this was clearly a very new thing for them. And as simple as we felt like we were trying to make the application, there was some grumbling about some of the questions and some of the requests that surprised me a little bit. But, sorry, we're government. We need documentation. So I'm not sure what we could have really done differently in that regard.
Yeah. Is help us help you. We're trying to give you 5 figures worth of money here.
Right.
Answer the questions.
Yeah.
Steve, I yield back my role as chairman in your stead here. So do you want to lead the rest of this?
Sure. Yeah, and I apologize, guys. Computer got the best of me with some new update for this. But thank you, Randy. I think as we close this out, some of the thoughts that I had on this, which looking overarching a bigger, the fact that the number of nonprofits, we weren't able to hand out all the funds. I think it's not so much at marketing. It could be, but I have a feeling that's more of, we're in a community that already supports nonprofits, right? And I think some of it could be that need's not there, which is also, we were able to distribute 96% of 300,000, give or whatever, could be off on the math. But holy cow, that I think that's success, right? 96% on most measurables. And then with the remainder going to the help center, I think overall this is a success and I think it was not a waste of our time to spend for the last, 6 months now, 8 months? One of the things that we talked about early on was also the making sure that people that aren't the business owners and the nonprofits that aren't we all know them or the most popular, make sure they were on there. The list of people on there that I've never heard of, and I think I'm pretty sure that we're safe in saying that we got them, or that from a marketing perspective, nobody I think could come out and say that it's only the most popular or the well-connected. The other is, when we first started out, the whole notion that, these businesses can apply for both Mecklenburg's thing and then also our own. There's a lot that have double dipped. I think that we got to remember that that's a fantastic for the town, for the businesses. They were able to double dip on this. Not on the same expense lines, Becky, but they're able to go after both, right?
Yeah.
So
I verified every single one directly with the county. Yeah, they were all for separate things, and the county was good with them receiving both. Yeah.
So I think overall, I'd say it's a success. I mean, certainly thank you to Becky for what you did, and then for everybody here for putting in your time on, all of those, non-standard meetings that we have. Anyway, back to the next business summit and how we want to do it. Does anybody have any ideas of how that looks like? I mean, we're talking about close to 2 hours after Cooper just started locking things down again. So I don't know how we're looking on timing. I'd imagine at earliest would want to, I'm thinking fall of 21, but I can be easily swayed if you guys feel we should jump back on it.
I don't see, and Kim, you've been close to this in the chamber, but boy, I think it'd be hard to create an appetite for any kind of online business summit. My perception is there's a lot of burnout about online webinars and conferences and the like. I would prefer to defer till later next year. I think Kim and others, I don't know what you think.
I think that makes sense. I don't like it, but I think it makes sense. And I think it's realistic. I know that the chamber's just starting to talk about our events for next year. And our first one of the year is always a business expo. I'm not sure how that overlaps with the business summit, but we're already talking about that not being a spring event, which it usually has been.
And my thought is, if we could plan it for spring, we could pick a date now, and I don't know, June, whatever date. And chances are we're going to spend a lot of time and have it changed. And then, but if we go to somewhere in the fall, granted it's a year out, I think there will be an appetite for people saying, I want to get out and meet with people. And at that time, I think that appetite is there. It's just people are terrified. But what that looks like, I don't know, but I'm thinking we got a couple months to deal with reality and say, okay, this, I think August is likely the earliest we'd want to think about it. And then you're rolling right into, that summer. So why don't we look at fall? And if there's consensus, I think I hate saying it, but let's punt till a time when there's more appetite for it and move on. It looks like by the nods, then I think we're all on the same page. Mr. Urban's not here, right, for the
Correct.
board development updates? Or do you have any updates? Do you know what's going on with the board or development projects?
Cindy, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
I almost wonder if waiting till fall will also give us the opportunity to address what the theme and how it looks, because it may not be the normal business summit having a business summit. And so this gives us time to find out what's happening in the United States and North Carolina and be able to maybe tweak how it's handled. Still in person, but.
We do generally start planning for these well in advance.
Yeah.
So this can be an offline conversation, Steve, but we'll have to decide when you want to talk about it next. We do have a regular EDAC meeting in January as well. So perhaps not that one, but the one after, we should start talking about it, even though we'll still be a little up in the air as to what the reality will be a few months down the road.
For whatever reason, I couldn't hear what you said, Lori.
Yeah,
Talking about planning in for the next summit, how far in advance we need to start.
And usually we wouldn't, in the past, we haven't done it, planned for it starting 6 months out. I mean, it's usually like 8 to 12 months out, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Becky, do you have any board updates, or do you know what they're doing with the developments going on?
The only development that I think is sort of currently in the works, currently under consideration, is a pretty large senior apartment complex, that is near the corner of Idlewild and Margaret Wallace, right near that's out at that intersection. So it's kind of the classic question that Matthews is really facing. The proposal is for a 4-story unit, and there's conversation with the board regarding density and kind of appropriateness of that type of size at that location. But sometimes as you go up in density, it can help with affordability. And so where does the desire for affordable housing fit in with aesthetics and height and appropriateness of scale in an area? So that is coming up for a decision soon, but that's the only one offhand. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to chat about it today. That's the only one that comes to mind as kind of an interesting example of what Matthews is trying to figure out. And, more folks can mean more support for businesses, but it can also mean traffic and congestion and all of the things that make people upset. So they are looking at it being a month-to-month rental product for 55 and over, which is a slightly different model than we've seen at our other senior living facilities within the town. a little bit simpler menu of amenities. And so I think it was keeping the cost, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say closer to the $1,600 a month.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
As opposed to some of the others that are very upper end.
Is this along Idlewild next to that other senior living center?
So this is, do you know where the Lidl is?
Yep.
Right there at the intersection of Ottawa. It's adjacent to the Lidl. The parking lots would actually connect. So it would be on the Idlewild stretch. So just next to the Lidl.
Yeah.
Okay. Kim, is there a chamber update? How are they doing?
Not a whole heck of a lot to report, except that this will be my last meeting as chamber president. JD Yearwood, who is with Park CREs, who's a commercial real estate guy, he'll be playing the role of president next year, so he'll be attending the EDAC meetings for next year. But no, we're wrapping up our year. It's been a struggle, like it has been for just about any nonprofit in the area. But we're doing well, and we're excited for next year. As soon as we can get some events together, things are going to definitely pick up well for our chamber.
What do renewal rates look like?
What look like?
To ask the tough question there, what do renewal rates look like? What renewal percentages in the chamber
They're low.
you can share?
Yeah, we're really struggling. We've got a lot of folks who are way behind on paying their dues. And when we can get a hold of them, many of them are businesses that have closed. But when we can get a hold of them, what we're finding is that they simply don't have the funds, plain and simple. So as a board, and in particular as an executive committee, we've had to make some pretty hard decisions about how to handle that. And one thing, I think it's okay for me to talk about this publicly at this point, but one thing that our staff is going to be doing is reaching out to those who are way behind in their dues and offering some more creative alternatives. For example, we can drop your 2020 dues if you'll pick up 2021 and just pay a small renewal fee. So we're trying to come up with creative ways to keep people around, but we're finding that folks just don't always have the money free to take care of dues. And with us now, I'm being very blunt with y'all now, with us not having events, we're 100% dependent on dues. So it's a struggle.
I will say over the weekend, my wife and her Girl Scout troop did it's almost like a scavenger hunt you guys have going on. And my wife said that there were tons of people that were out doing it. So that it's had I haven't heard from any business owners who, but from the non-business owner community, it seems to be a hit, right? I mean, that's pretty good.
Our new ED is Jessica Tuller, and she started with us, I think, the end of July, or maybe it was August. She is fantastic. She has so many great new, fresh ideas. That was one of hers. And then there's another one that they'll be doing a holiday stroll of sorts in December. So she's really done great things to try to get people out in Matthews and shopping and spending their money at our businesses.
That's cool.
Yeah. But thanks for telling me that, Steve. I'll let her know.
Yeah, sure.
Steve, my friend, you put yourself on mute.
I'm looking at him thinking mute and sorry, had a COVID confusion. Tim, do you have a quad update?
A little one, yes. If you remember a year ago or so, Chief Penninger came and presented the concept of a police and fire training center. And I'll say roughly outside of 485 between the town lines of Stallings and Matthews along Independence, in general, that area. Anyway, they've gone back and done some more. We asked them to please put some numbers around it and a little bit more than just the concept. So they have, this last week, literally, Chief Rob, Lori, could you help me pronounce his name?
Clark Pennington? Rob Kinneberg.
Kinneberg.
I have such a hard time. I don't know why, between the spelling and, but Rob Kinneberg, thank you, came and presented on the fire side So they have done some planning. They have a skeleton, but we still have to put numbers around it. Along with him came South Piedmont Community College, and they have a fire training center program, but that's literally almost an hour away in transit. And so the concept is possibly working between South Piedmont and Central Piedmont. Is it South Piedmont? Anyway, the two community college systems putting together a plan where they might locate a fire and training center, a regional fire and training center facility in that same location. So long story short, the concept is progressing. The numbers are still being assimilated. And at this point, it's still a concept. It's big bucks. You know, when it comes to infrastructure, this is improving land, this is getting facilities up and going. So it's big bucks. So putting numbers behind it is going to be hard. One of the problems we have is each one of these chiefs, not only our town, Stallings and Mint Hill, and possibly Pineville, may be part of the picture, but these folks are full-time chiefs of their departments, and finding a person that can put this whole concept together into real numbers is daunting. So long story short, it's progressing. I think it's a valid concept and has merit. Finding the numbers and putting structure around it is going to be hard. That's about it.
Thank you, Jim. And Becky, is there any staff updates that we should note?
I'll jump in real quick with the reappointments. So we do have some folks that are going to get reappointed.
Lori, if I may excuse, because this may be the same thing we had a while ago. You may need to get closer to the microphone. You're just coming in bits and pieces there.
Is this any better?
A little bit better there, a little bit garbled, but try it.
So we have a few people who are going to get reappointed for another 2-year term. So I want to thank you, Randy, Marcy, Cindy, and Brett. So you'll get reappointed for another 2-year term starting in January. And then I did want to say thank you to Tim, who has chosen not to be reappointed, but he has served EDAC almost since the inception. He's been with us since 2009 and has served admirably and has given a lot to us. So I wanted to say a special thank you to him for all of his service.
Thank you, Tim.
So, and that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have anything else for benefit of the group? Any miscellaneous? No? All right, well, thank you,
Again,
guys.
just a shout out to Becky and Lori for
Yeah.
what they did in the grant work. Becky, it was a great summary, and I hope you don't rue the day that you brought to this committee the opportunity. Hey, we can get 300,000 ourselves to distribute. You may have regretted that later. I don't know.
No, not at all. I was just going to say, just the role that this group took, it helped bring, a level of legitimacy to what we were trying to put together, and, a level of formality to be able to say to the folks that we had to turn down, unfortunately, the grant review committee decided is always an easier conversation than we decided or town staff decided. Certainly having your assistance with this has been incredibly helpful. So thank you to this group for, I know we spent a lot of time going over the what ifs and the how to's, and I know it was painful. So we are almost there. I will report back in January with hopefully fully good news that we were able to get all of the money out the door. But I said to a colleague today, I'm going to get this money paid out if it kills me. So a lot more grant processing to do, but we are going to make it happen. So again, I appreciate everybody's help.
Becky, fantastic. It was just, you did fantastic. It might have been easier for all of us to say, turn it over to Mecklenburg County, but I tell you what, the job you and your team has done, and frankly, Steve and Randy and the whole team, but really you've carried the brunt of it. And the hand holding you talked about, the hand holding of just that little bit, means a lot, I think, to our town. So you've done a good job.
I do want to add to that. The group did a great job, particularly the small group from EDAC that reviewed everything, spent a lot of time and effort on that. But Becky has done an insane amount of work, and she will not tell y'all how much work she has done on this, but it has been hours upon hours of hard work and difficult work and probably some frustration on top of everything else that she does, which is a ton of work already. So I just wanted to point that out and thank her for all the work that she did on this project.
Great.
Excellent.
Thanks, Lori.
Excellent. Hey, Steve, Lori,
Yes, sir.
when is our next meeting?
It is
What is
January
that date?
26th. January 26th.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Anybody have anything else
I gotta
before
get out.
we adjourn?
I'll make a
Tim,
motion.
Tim, EDAC's not going to be the same without you. I haven't
No.
known EDAC without a Tim Jones. So
I'll listen to you.
thank you for all of your years. You've been a very dedicated citizen volunteer, and we've really, really appreciated it.
We are grateful for that. And Tim, it sounded like you were about to make the final motion of 2020.
That's a great idea, Randy. I'll make a motion to adjourn if you all will agree.
I think we're all in agreement.
All
All right, thanks, guys.
Happy
Appreciate y'all.
holidays.
right.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.